His heart rate doubled, his breathing turned harsh and erratic. Sweat popped out across his skin, his hands trembled. His body tightened, hardened. He clenched his teeth and gripped the shovel handle until his knuckles ached, swallowing hard. Fighting the powerful swell of arousal, the burning need to undo his pants and stroke himself to relieve the sudden pressure in his groin. His whole body shook as he rode it out, until finally, after endless minutes, it passed. He had no idea how long he'd been standing there, battling the raging need. His breathing was still harsh as his gaze strayed back to the gorgeous pink peonies, their petals all but glowing in a shaft of golden sunlight. It was like a sign from above. The dark urges had only gone away for a few weeks this time, and now they were back, more powerful than ever. It frightened and electrified him at the same time. He glanced around, taking slow, calming breaths. There were more weeds to be pulled in the other beds, but he couldn't tend to them now. He was too shaken. Instead, he gathered his tools up and carried them back to the shed, a hollow, heavy regret mixing with a heady sense of anticipation humming through him. His secret garden wasn't complete after all. Now he would have to break his most important rule of allowing himself only one perfect victim per year. Hunting again so soon would increase the risk of getting caught. But maybe that would make this one last kill that much more fulfilling. Maybe this next one would satisfy him enough to forever silence the hungry monster that never gave him rest. Maybe it would finally bring him peace so he could stop. Noah Buchanan jerked awake when the generator started up next door. What the hell? He rolled over to squint at the bedside clock. "You gotta be freaking kidding me," he muttered. It was 7:12 on a Saturday morning. Wasn't there an unspoken rule everybody understood that you had to be quiet until at least 9 on the weekends, as a matter of common courtesy? His new neighbor was from South Dakota. Maybe they didn't have that rule there. Noah sighed, trying to remember if he had any earplugs lying around. Thanks to yet another file sent over from the FBI on the latest missing women's case from 6 weeks ago, then a domestic disturbance call just prior to the end of his shift. He'd only gotten home an hour ago. That meant he'd been asleep for probably 20 minutes, max. Outside, the generator got louder. "No," he groaned. So much for sleep. What the hell was she doing over there anyway? He growled as he sat up and scrubbed a hand over his face. He'd showered as soon as he'd gotten home, but hadn't shaved, because he thought he would have plenty of time to do it after he'd had at least 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Silly him. Grabbing a pair of jeans from the chair in the corner, he dragged them on over top of his boxers and stumbled down the hall toward the kitchen. Through the wide window above the sink, he caught a flash of blonde hair over the back fence. Definitely his new neighbor. Since sleep was no longer an option, he hit the button on the coffee maker on his way to the back door. Barefoot, he stepped outside into the warm, late June morning and headed across the back lawn, the grass soft and slightly damp beneath his soles. He stopped at the neck-high cedar fence that separated the properties, and the moment he saw his sexy new neighbor at the far side of her yard, he suddenly wasn't annoyed anymore. Poppy stood in profile to him as she raised the wand of the power washer and started on her back fence. She was young, maybe mid-20s. She wore a tiny pair of frayed cut-off shorts and a string bikini top that framed full round breasts, leaving her midriff and long legs bare. Christ. It took superhuman effort to drag his eyes up to her face. Her honey blonde hair was up in a ponytail, and he could see the wires from the earbuds she had in. Completely absorbed in her task, she had no idea he was standing there staring at her. As a cop, it was hardwired in him to be cynical. He'd kept an eye on Poppy Larsen since the night he'd met her when she'd first come to town. She'd shown up all by herself and decided to open a business here. So far, he hadn't managed to dig up anything of interest about her, but everyone had secrets. He'd learned that lesson the hard way. She continued washing her fence down, making a thorough job of it. On the one hand, Noah had to admire her work ethic, but why the hell was she power washing her fence at this hour on a Saturday morning? He stood there for another minute admiring the view, since she couldn't see him, then ambled down to the west end of the fence. Resting his forearms on the top of it, he waited for her to notice him.